Neferpito's Dr. Blythe. Pito from Hunter x Hunter has one of the most terrifying abilities that has a horrendous scope of damage. Dr. Blythe is a conjured puppet doctor summoned by Pito to perform surgery and repair damage to herself, to others, or to anyone she chooses. On the surface, that sounds almost nice, but leaning on how merciless and utterly psychopathic the Chimera Ants were in the series, it could always be used for abhorrent acts or even torture. Dr. Blythe can only be active while Pito is completely stationary and focused, which means anyone being treated by Dr. Blythe is entirely at Pito's mercy for the duration. When Pito was operating on Kite, it was implied that he was in a state of subconscious suspension that let him bypass the pain, but it was all under Gon's watchful eye. Not that Pito was reviving Kite out of the nicety of her heart or anything. She just wanted to fight again. Being a Chimera Ant, Pito could easily torture her victims by poking delicate nerve endings to make it unbelievably painful. Keeping someone alive through Dr. Blythe is Pito's conscious, ongoing choice, one that she can revoke at any moment. And the indifference towards humans that every Chimera Ant displays makes every moment a person is under it, like living through a perpetual psychotic breakdown. The horror of Dr. Blythe isn't the ability itself, it's what it says about Neferpito, that keeping a person on the edge of death is a convenient tool. Stealing shadows. One Piece. Gecko Moria's Devil Fruit ability, the Kage Kage no Mi, gives him the power to steal and manipulate shadows, and in the One Piece world, getting your shadow stolen is like a sword hanging on your neck that could drop as soon as the light rays from the sun hit you. To put it straight, if Moria steals your shadow, you cannot go into sunlight anymore, as it will disintegrate you into dust. You become a prisoner of darkness, permanently. But the horrifying part is what comes after it. As Moria shoves down the soul in a deceased body, the man comes back, sometimes in a more powerful state of being. The new body has your fighting abilities, your memories, and your skills, and in the case of Luffy, it also had the overall negative IQ and an ever-ending hunger to win. So not only have you lost something fundamental about yourself, but there's now a version of you walking around in a dead body, controlled by someone else while you're utterly powerless to stop it. Something we witnessed firsthand during Brook's encounter with his shadow self. The thing that always gets me about this power is the asymmetry of it. Moria gets stronger with every shadow he steals. His army grows, and his victims become progressively weaker and more restricted. It's a slow, methodical kind of horror, and the image of an entire island full of people who've lost their shadows, confined to darkness, trapped on an island with a zombie army made from pieces of themselves, makes Thriller Bark genuinely one of the most unsettling islands in One Piece overall. Heaven's Door. In the world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, stands are the staple tools of battle, but Heaven's Door gets a tad bit more bizarre as it turns people into books. Literally, it peels back someone's faces like pages and reveals their entire life story written inside of them. Every memory, every secret, every experience they've ever had is available for Rohan Kashibe, the user, to read. While the reading part is already a massive violation of privacy, the writing part is where it becomes genuinely terrifying. Rohan can write commands directly into a person's pages, and those commands become absolute. He can write, cannot harm Rohan Kashibe, and that person will be physically incapable of doing so. He can write, forget the last 10 years of your life, and poof, it's just gone. He can write behavioral restrictions, implant information, or simply remove things from someone's identity. What is chilling about Heaven's Door is how clean it is. There's no violence involved, no dramatic power clash. Rohan just touches you, opens you up, and edits you like a Word document. And you won't even know it happened. You'll just be different and call it a coincidence. Some people in power today would pay top dollar or even kill for this ability to get their names off of a certain list. Parasite assimilation. Bonding with a parasite is terrifying because of what it does to you. Rather quietly, it's over before you can even wake up from your beauty sleep. Parasites enter through the ear or nose, burrow into the brain, and completely replace the host's consciousness. The original person isn't trapped somewhere inside screaming, they're just erased from existence. And the thing wearing their face has full access to their memories, their mannerisms, and their relationships, enough to fool even their own blood. Once inside a host, parasites can reshape the human body into a living weapon, from slitting heads turning into blades, tentacles erupting out of weird places, and razor-sharp appendages morphing mid-combat at blinding speed. There's nothing more terrifying to face on a regular Monday after your 12-hour shift. And let's say you're somehow able to take them down or cut off those tentacles, the parasites don't die till the core is destroyed. But what makes it worse is that parasites aren't even malicious about it. They eat humans the same way humans eat other animals, out of pure instinct. No guilt or personal animosities needed, when the predator can't distinguish between a sandwich and a human. All in all, the worst part about this ability is that the victims often die at the hands of their loved ones, as the feeling of betrayal lasts on their faces up until their final moments. Guts Berserker Armor. Although the Berserker Armor is more of a utility object, with an ability that affects the user itself, it can be counted as an innate ability. The Berserker Armor is a cursed suit of armor that removes all physical and mental limiters from its user. If you have pain, fear, or fatigue in the Berserk universe, the Berserker Armor could go a long way for you. And looking at how there's some of or the other kind of nightmare fuel around every corner, it makes the dry humor not so funny after all. With the armor, Guts can fight at 100% of his physical capacity with no restrictions whatsoever. But it's not as rosy as it sounds because, those limiters exist for a reason. Your body caps itself to protect you. When you remove them entirely, you can push muscles past the point of tearing, ignore injuries that usually would be signs of dying, and keep fighting through damage that would sound alarm bells in other people's minds. But there's a reason we've included it in the terrifying abilities. To compensate for the lack of limiters, the armor uses metal spikes to pin broken bones back to place and force torn muscles to keep functioning. Guts is fought through dislocated joints, being forcibly reset mid-battle by the armor itself. The armor also forcibly snatches Guts' vision and hearing as a consequence of the ominous Odd eating on his humanity. More akin to, like lasering your eyes and listening to punk rock for hours straight every time you'd use that ability. This permanent, irreversible sensory damage accumulating over time takes you on a very slow but steady path to your grave, and that's honestly merciful compared to the other deaths you'll see in the universe. Every time the armor goes back down, the Guts we see is a little less than what we saw last time going in. Mahito's Idol Transfiguration. Mahito's ability is one of the most conceptually disturbing things in Jujutsu Kaisen, considering that it is a show with a pretty high bar for disturbing things. Idol Transfiguration allows Mahito to reshape the souls of human beings, and by extension, their bodies, into whatever form he wants. The reason this is so horrifying isn't just the gore we have to go through every time he does. There is plenty to go around that in JJK. It's the philosophy behind it. Mahito genuinely believes that the soul defines the human, not the body, and just because he's able to get in contact with the soul directly, mutilation to him is just an art. He sees himself through the eyes of an artist, a deranged one at that. He genuinely doesn't understand why humans find it upsetting. That absence of malice makes it so much worse than if he were just evil. Junpei's death and the trauma that Yuji suffered right as Mahito and Sukuna laughed at him for it were brutal. The ability was used as a perfect tool for torturing Yuji, as Mahito did it specifically to cause maximum psychological damage to Yuji. It wasn't even a fight, it was an experiment. Subaru's Return by Death. Return by Death is one of the most creative use cases of a protagonist's power in anime. On paper, it sounds like a gift. Subaru dies, and he resets to a previous checkpoint. Anyone would want to have that to do unlimited redo of life events. He can't permanently die and should in fact be OP. Except no, because the show is brutally honest about what that actually means, and it's bad. Like, really bad. Before Subaru could reincarnate or restart his life, he had to experience every single death in full. The pain, the fear, the moment of dying, over and over again. And to make it even worse, fate has given him the cruelest of deaths so far. He's been strangled, gutted, frozen, crushed, and torn apart, and every time he wakes back up, carrying the full memory of what happened to him mere moments before, like an ultra-realistic bad dream. We added this ability because it's terrifying, not only to others but also to Subaru himself. And on top of all the drama, he cannot even tell anyone about his ability, as he's bestowed with a curse that physically prevents him from explaining it, and trying to do so comes with consequences. He's lost many friends due to the ability, but one thing that has followed him everywhere is suffering. Looking right into the eyes of your friends, family, and loved ones right before they leave you forever to some of the most gruesome deaths is truly insane. All of us have at one point wondered about going back in time and fixing our mistakes, and Subaru actually holds that ability. Still, he can't save the best of his people as he goes through the show. Itachi's Tsukuyomi. Genjutsu in Naruto is scary in concept, but most of it is pretty beatable if you have the chakra and the skill to dispel it. But Tsukuyomi is not most Genjutsu. I mean, you can ask Kurenai if she's not busy pulling stupid moves. Anyway, Tsukuyomi is Itachi's exclusive Mangekyo Sharingan technique, and what it does is trap its victim in a completely controlled illusionary world where Itachi controls space, time, and everything in it. But here's the horrifying part. Once you're in it, no matter where you are or what state you're in Itachi's world for as long as he pleases. In the anime, Itachi was able to trap Kakashi in his Tsukuyomi for 3 days, in which he was crucified and stabbed continuously. And as Genjutsu affects the mind in Naruto, every second of the pain felt as if it was real, but in reality, only a moment had passed. The technique was so powerful that a huge part of the finale was written around it to include it being cast upon every living person on the planet through a reflection of the moon. And might I mention, it also gave the animators time to add half a year's worth of fillers? Thanks for that, Studio Period. Human Chimera Transmutation. Alchemy in Full Metal Alchemist is already a fascinating and deeply dangerous power system, but nothing in that show hits quite as hard as what happens in the very first episode when Edward and Alphonse attempt human transmutation to bring back their mother, and it goes catastrophically wrong. Edward lost his leg, and Alphonse lost his whole body to attempt and bring back their mother, while the former had to sacrifice another arm just to bond Alphonse's body to a suit of armor. But the thing about chimera transmutation specifically is that it's not just powerful, it's a violation of the laws of nature of that universe, the law of equivalent exchange. And looking back at one of the most heart-wrenching moments in all of anime, when Sho Tucker transmutes his own daughter, Nina, and her dog, Alexander, into a single chimera, what we're left with is something that still has Nina's consciousness, but the dog's body. It still recognizes Ed. It still talks. It still says play. But the terrifying reality hits when Edward realizes that the little girl cannot be saved. The transmutation is complete. There is no reversal. Although we later find out that there are successful chimeras that can be created using another forbidden item, known as the Philosopher's Stone, which is in turn created by mass-scale genocide, it still leaves the fact on the table that it cannot undo the absolute, irreversible, cellular fusion of a human and an animal, even after surpassing the law of equivalent exchange. The reason this lands so hard isn't because of the power scale. The chimera transmutation isn't powerful enough to blow up a city. It's terrifying because of what it represents, the ability to irreversibly destroy a human's personality while leaving just enough of them behind to feel it. That's not a weapon. That's a torture device of utmost cruelty. And the fact that it's presented as something any sufficiently skilled alchemist could theoretically do makes it so much worse. Trafalgar Law's live surgeries. The Ope Ope no Mi gives Law the ability to create a room, a spherical spatial zone he has complete surgical control over. Inside that room, he can slice, reposition, and rearrange anything without causing immediate damage. He can detach your head, set it on a nearby rock, and your body keeps standing. He can swap people's souls between bodies. He can move organs around inside you like he's reorganizing a filing cabinet, and none of it kills you right away, which, depending on how you look at it, is somehow more horrifying than if it did. Law was somehow able to replicate the terror of the Kage Kage no Mi just by using a speck of his abilities by stealing the hearts of 100 pirates and delivered it to the government. And this is just a tiny speck of the Ope Ope no Mi's power we're talking about. It can even grant immortality, and we don't even have to touch on this subject at the moment. Somehow, Law is able to merge two very powerful techniques we already discussed in the list. First, Gekko Moriya's Kage Kage no Mi, life-stealing ability, and Itachi's complete dominion control, as anything can happen inside Law's room as he has full control. There are only a few people that can actually stand against the Surgeon of Death, and with his awakened fruit abilities, the gap between him and the rest of the verse only widens.